Genie. It's a new movie available on Peacock. It has audio description, and it stars Melissa McCarthy and that guy who did some TV shows, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce, but he was on I May Destroy You. So if you know who I'm talking about, cool. I'm only lightly familiar with him. I was pretty surprised to see him in a starring role, but may also explain why this film didn't get a theatrical release. Also, it's not very good, which could also explain it, but let's talk about that. So this is based on a script by Richard Curtis, who, and that's probably the first, we have to start there. So in case you don't know who that is, that's the guy who wrote Love Actually, About Time. You know, he's a pretty decent writer in this field. He's got some credits to his name. That's work. Unfortunately, he didn't direct the film. Some rando did, with some credits that he like did some episodes of a show called Love Life. And I mean, I guess it's good for Melissa that it's not just her husband writing and directing, so good for her for branching out. I don't know why she chose this. She doesn't even really want to she doesn't even seem like she wants to be here. The film is poorly written, it's poorly directed, it's poorly acted. She was better in The Little Mermaid earlier this year. I love Melissa McCarthy, and there have been some films that have been released recently of hers that I'll fight for. I actually liked the AI movie, the Super Intelligence. I thought that was kind of funny, but not one of her best. But I mean, it entertained me, which is the purpose of what it's supposed to do. This did not really entertain me. It was just kind of stupid, and things just happen in the film that just don't really need to happen, and then they don't really explain it, and it's really kind of clunky put together. There's like one scene where she just kind of disappears for a while and gets the other guy in trouble, and like he can't summon her. She's a genie. It's just weird. It's like she's just off somewhere. And the way that he got in trouble was basically because of her. But she wasn't intending to get him into trouble. She's just suddenly a dumbass. But the film's never played her as a dumbass before. It plays her sort of as a genie that's been in a bottle for 1,000 years, but not necessarily as an idiot. So not even a bottle, it was like a box. He wrote some sort of a jewelry box or something that brought her out. And one of the bright things that this film does, one of the smart things it does, is it throws out the 3 wishes rule and allows him to have more wishes. So he's able to wish for things for other people because he has more freedom. Which is kind of the thing, it's like if we had a genie for a longer period of time, then we would probably wish for things for other people and allow wishes for other people too. There's a scene where he sits down with some of his family and they wish for things and she grants them, and they're kind of funny. So I'm not going to say this film is totally without laughter, and it's not the worst Melissa McCarthy movie. I didn't absolutely hate every single minute of my life while watching this film. It's just not good. It's not a good film. This is not something I would give fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not something I'm going to give thumbs up or recommend. But it's also not her worst, and it's certainly not like in the doldrums of, like catastrophic failures. I just wish she didn't feel like she was sleepwalking through the film. When we first meet her, she appears as a genie that hasn't been out for, I don't know, hundreds to 1,000 years. Medieval times, she talks about some things that, and she looks like she's from like a Renaissance fair. So, it's been a long time, and she seems to not speak like she's from ye olden days. She speaks like she's from here, but she just doesn't know what things are. So there's no attempt to give her any sort of an accent. There's no attempt to make her sound like, to change the words in which she speaks from, which is funny because she's up against a British guy who sounds more appropriate for being from a different time period than she does. Melissa McCarthy just sounds like Melissa McCarthy. She's like, "Hi, I'm the genie. Um, the last time I was out was like the Crusades, but hey, um, this is how we spoke back then. I don't know if you know that, but all that Will Shakespeare stuff was all bullshit. Uh, we've been speaking the same way this whole time." I don't know what the aim there is, but yeah, she just kind of pops out, and there's no effort made on her part at all. Like, she feels like she's tired in this film. Like, the whole film, she feels like she doesn't want to be there. Like, the energy that she's put into some of her other characters never shows up in this film. Um, Melissa McCarthy, I know she's getting up there in age, but she used to be really big into physical comedy. And if anything, she could be really big into just emoting comedy. You know, like Robin Williams used to do a lot of things just with his face and with his voice and stuff. And Melissa just doesn't even do that here. It just feels like she was literally kidnapped and forced at gunpoint to film this. It is the least interesting thing she has ever done as an actress. It's not the worst film she's ever done, but it is the film that literally feels like she owed someone a favor and said yes to this project. I would say that to her face. I'd be like, that is how your acting feels in this film. Compare it to any other project, even in projects people don't like. And she is more committed to shittier films than she is to this film, which is not great, but not terrible. Not, oh my God. Yeah, she's been more committed to worse films. And this film, she's just like, the most excited I saw her get was when they have a scene in a movie theater and she gets a really kind of cool line. I guess they're watching Mission Impossible and she shouts at the scene and she's like, "The mission is impossible. It's in the title." I was like, that is the most excited she got, the whole film. I guess there is a scene where she gets to dance to trap music. But there's some things that are funny about it, but man, it just seems, I was so disappointed. I actually didn't even know it was a Melissa McCarthy movie until I clicked on it, to be honest. I was like, oh, Peacock dropped a new movie, Genie. I'll watch it. It's a holiday movie. We'll see what happens. We'll see who's in this. Oh, Melissa McCarthy's in this. Oh no. There are a couple other celebrities that pop up in this. Some other famous people. Luis Guzman, for example, is in this for like 5 seconds. Alan Cumming. So I don't know why. I don't know why these people are in this film, but they are. So I guess everybody looked at the Richard Curtis effect and they were like, oh, we could be in the next Love Actually. This is nothing like Love Actually. There's no heart, there's no soul. The complicated relationship that the lead character has with his wife just goes nowhere. It's actually sort of disappointing and very depressing. Because while we don't get a whole lot of backstory into the characters and into maybe their great love, they do have a daughter that is substantially old enough to suggest that they've been in a relationship for a while. So it's the kind of thing where you root for people to get back together, but this one just really doesn't seem to want to put them together. So it's like a film that's like learning to teach kids to live with divorce, pending divorce, but then the daughter is just, she was fine. She was adorable and cute, and she worked in all the scenes, and I would have loved to see more of her. I think she probably would have brought more out of these characters. The few scenes that she is in are better because she's in them. It's so weird to say that this little girl that I have no idea who she is, she understands sort of like the Christmas spirit angle of it. She understands how to be the cute kid in a movie. She understands how to work off of Melissa McCarthy and the guy playing her father. And it works, but then she's barely in it. Most of the time it's just the two of them talking about things, and and him trying to like figure out his situation and think of ways how to use his wishes to try to impress his separated wife. And even when he does impress her, she's just not impressed. There's nothing he can do, no matter how grand the gesture or how well timed, or sort of like, if I could give you the moon, I'd give you the moon. Well, you can give her the moon, and she's like, "Oh, lovely, it's the moon. Thanks, I've always wanted that. Never mind. We should probably do a divorce." It's just so depressing. I didn't like this film at all. I didn't like anything about it. The the main guy is fine. The guy, I don't know I don't know how to pronounce his name. I don't know who he is. Like, I know the things he's in, but I can't remember any of the characters he's played. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't pull anything to the front of my head and be like, oh, that guy, yes, he was brilliant. There was nothing that really immediately came to the front of my mind with this guy. But when I see him later on in something else and I see that he played this character in Genie, I'll be like, oh, the guy from Genie. I'm glad he's still acting. I don't want him to go away, because I don't think the film is his fault, especially considering he's not a known actor and he's opposite Melissa McCarthy. So, I mean, like, the whole weight of the film is on her. She's got a director who's done nothing before, and you can tell. And it's a script by Richard Curtis that he should have absolutely... I don't know if he's been sitting on this for years and just decided finally to release it to the wild, but it should have stayed hidden away. Yeah, it's this film is not anything. It has like a 4.8 on IMDb, and I can tell you that that's well earned. It's very... I hate saying that, because I wasn't a fan of Mike and Molly. I'm not usually a fan of a lot of CBS things, but I'm not a fan of Mike and Molly. But when Melissa McCarthy started doing films with Bridesmaids, with The Heat, with even Tammy, she was always all in, and it was always goofy and unexpected, and you could get stuff out of it, even when she started doing dramatic stuff like Can You Ever Forgive Me, there was such a level of commitment to her work. And now that she seems to have been downgraded to mostly streaming films, I don't know if maybe she's just so disheartened that she can't get to theatrical releases anymore, that she just shows up. But it showed here. It hasn't shown in the past, and I don't know, cheer up, Melissa. Some of us still really like you, and if I had known, I would have been even more excited to click on Genie, because I do root for you. Every time I click on a Melissa McCarthy movie, I'm always like, please God, please let this one be funny. Please let this one be funny. I want so much for her as an actress. I actually really enjoyed her in The Little Mermaid. I thought she was one of the stronger points of that film. She surprised me. I didn't think she was going to be, but she actually surprised me with that. So she has so much potential and is one of the most talented actresses working in Hollywood. This film is just beneath her, and she acts like it's beneath her to even be there. It's just such not an interesting performance from her. So, audio description wise, well, it's a wish fulfillment film, so obviously things can sort of appear out of thin air, and not everything necessarily makes sense within the confines of the real world. So there are plenty of times where he wishes for something, and obviously it has to change. Plus, she's dressed ridiculously in the beginning, and stays actually dressed ridiculously far longer than he should have let her be ridiculous. There's a scene where he goes to a park, and there's a whole bunch of kids, and he wishes for them to all get what they want for Christmas, and of course he has no idea. So that's like open territory, and some of the kids end up getting, like, one of them gets like a tiny little SUV, things that don't even seem like they exist in real life. But like a child-sized SUV for them to drive off in. You know, imagine if you were a kid and you wanted an Escalade, but you also wanted to be able to drive the Escalade. So Melissa McCarthy creates for you like a 10-year-old's version of an Escalade for you to drive off in. That's kind of what I got out of that was that situation, you know. And there's a lot of that in here as well. So a lot of cute little things to wish for with specificity, but at some points it almost feels like there isn't a script, and Melissa has been told to improvise, and she doesn't really know what to do or improvise. Like there was a script, and Richard Curtis wrote, and this director was like, you know what, this guy that wrote Love Actually has no idea what he's talking about, but Melissa, your films are flawless, so why don't you just pick your own dialogue? And Melissa's like, okay, well, I'll go with this. So it's yeah, I would never hire the director again. There's nothing about this film that makes me think, man, I can't wait to see more from him. This is a film where directors go to die, and then they just end up directing episodes of television series after that. He had one shot. He had Melissa McCarthy in a film that had probably a decent budget to it, and this is what he churned out. So I really can't vouch for that guy. I don't know what's happening with Richard Curtis and his writing abilities, but very disappointed. I'm disappointed in this entire film. When the best thing I can come across is to say my favorite character was the child, who's in a couple of scenes, because when she's in them, at least there's some life and some energy and so a little bit of like love, and it feels more like this is the movie we should be having. But then she goes away, and then we're back to, so what do you want to wish for? I don't know. Let's figure it out. Okay. So, stay away from this. I'm gonna give Genie a D+. I'm sorry, Melissa, but you're just not good in this. So, and whatever son of a bitch held her to this film, if she was in fact held against her will to this film, fuck you. I'll say that in her defense. Whoever forced her to do this, I hate you. Stop forcing stars into crappy films. It doesn't help anybody. They don't. We tried that with Edward Norton and with his contract back in the day. Luckily, some of his films ended up being good, and he just, I don't know, his standards were just too high, because some of those films have kind of stood the test of time, like Rounders, that he didn't want to do. But and people kind of like that Italian Job remake with Mark Wahlberg and Charlize Theron. But yeah, he was forced to do some films, and you can kind of tell that he's like, I don't really want to be here. But yeah, she didn't want to be here for this, and that is my prediction and my guess. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I only need a few more, so click subscribe so I can get over my goal for the year. I also have a website, MacMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on X, Threads, or Instagram, MacMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description, where you can watch it, and you can go to the adna.org. That's the adna.org, and you can look up and see who's working on the narration for your favorite films and television series. That's it. I will watch something else and see you guys on the other side.